Hello there everyone and welcome to a new review on the channel, and today I'm super excited and I'm super pleased to be able to get this review out to you, and that is on Enigma by Christian Grace. Now this is a product that has been talked about everywhere in forums. It probably has the most ever pages I've seen in recent memory for a Magic Cafe thread. It's literally getting close to 40 pages on there of comments, questions, remarks, conjectures, etc. There's been YouTube videos on this, posts on Facebook groups, on Instagram. Everyone has been talking about this. Some people have made conjectures and have kind of had ideas of how this works and kind of spread out certain narratives that aren't necessarily true. But again, I'm not here to talk about those or to get into all that drama, but I'm just here to give you my experience with this, to give you my thoughts on this. I bought this with my own money. So this was not gifted to me. This is not a review copy. This has been purchased with my own money, and this is expensive. So if this is bad or this is good, I will tell you how it is and I'll tell you my experience with it. By the time this video comes out, I've had a few days to also test out the app, to practice it extensively, and also perform it at an event, which it was yesterday. So if you're watching this, Tuesday was the event at which I performed this, and it went great. So I've road tested this app. This is not just me buying the app and then 2 hours later making a review on it. I've tested this, I've practiced this extensively because it needs some practice. I've set it up and I've done everything. So I think I can provide for everyone that's interested in this an informative review, and a review based on my experience and my ideas that are even not in the tutorial video, some things that I came up with, some things that I found regarding this app, and why I find that it is this good. I truly feel this is one of the favorite things that I bought. I know some people may not agree with that, but let me just share to you why I feel that is. So strap on for a long video. There's a lot to talk about this product, because I really do want to answer as many questions as I can about it. So having said that, if you're ready to get into this longer review of mine, let's roll the intro and get straight into it. Perfect. So you decide to stick around, which means you want to learn more about Enigma. So what is Enigma? The first thing that we got to talk about is, what is Enigma? Enigma is essentially an app, a system, a project that will allow you to seemingly take out a word from the spectator's head within constraints and reveal it without them having to say it out loud, write it down, tell it to anyone, research it on their phone, etc. 99% of the time. That's essentially what Enigma is, okay? We're gonna get into some of the constraints and things that I talked to you about, right, later on, but that is essentially what Enigma is. So I don't have anyone to perform Enigma to right now, so I can't really perform it. Plus I'm using my phone where Enigma is at to film this, so I can't really do it for you. But I will tell you the 3 ways in which I perform Enigma, okay? Just to show you that I did put the time, and I'll tell you the way that I used it yesterday. So the first way that I use it is in parlor stage scenarios. So I've practiced it. I've not yet used it in those scenarios. I've practiced for those scenarios, but I essentially bought one of these pads and I've altered it to certain specificities as for it to fit a phone inside without even seeing the place where the phone fits, which I think if you're astute enough, you can understand how this helps me do the effect. So the phone is never in play. It is never seen. It is never perceived by the audience. The only thing that the audience sees me do, so this I am right now in performance mode, is me just standing like this with the pad and giving them some instructions, telling them this, then I do. Can you just think of, okay, I think I got it. So let me just write it down, and I write it down, and then I would reveal. So that is what it looks like. You never see anything. It is super clean, and I've built this and I've made it so that I can just change it from pad to pad, because this is a pad from my local dollar store, and I could buy like 10 of them for 20 bucks and have basically 300 performances worth of this, okay? So that's the way I perform it parlor stage. So it's with a pad. The second way that I perform it is the way I performed it yesterday as well, is sitting down to people. So sitting down to people. And what I do is I have the pad here under the table, and I have the pen as well. And then I just tell the spectators, perfect. So we're gonna try something here in a moment. And then I'm gonna take, hopefully by the end, I'll be able to either draw or get some of your thoughts and write them down on this pad, and hopefully it makes a bit of sense, but we'll come to that when we need it. So then I would proceed to do the presentation, and I think in that scenario, the phone is not in the pad because that pad is ungimmicked. The phone is essentially in my lap, okay? So I do everything while the phone is in my lap. I'm hidden by the table anyway. So then when I take out the pad and do what's important, the phone is never at play as well. And that's the way I performed it yesterday, and it killed. When I tell you it killed, people could not believe it. They literally were stunned. So that's the way I performed at a table in certain scenarios. So the last way that I perform it is if ever I'm in like a rush, or if I find there's someone that's really into my magic and I didn't plan on doing Enigma and I'm trying to do it, I would just do the Christian Grace version, the one that he kind of showed in a few trailers, where you do the whole performance, you take out your phone and you tell them, look, I'm going to search something on Google here, a picture, and I don't want you to say this out loud, but your item is something I feel that has many uses outside, not inside, outside, right? Perfect. I feel something that you have more uses, maybe in a backyard, right? The item that you're thinking, not something that you would use maybe to drive around or mechanical like that. No, I think I know it's revolving grass, right? Your thing is revolving grass. Perfect. Look, I don't want you to tell the word out loud, but tell me if this makes sense. You then hand them your phone and it's on a Google page, images of a lawnmower, for example. So that's the way that I would perform it, kind of in an impromptu way. So those are the three ways in which I intend to perform and have performed, clearly with this one, Enigma, okay? So just so you know, it is versatile and you don't have to use your phone at all. If you want, you can just use my idea of using the pad thing, and essentially your phone is never ever going to be seen, okay? So that's up to you to decide. There's also people in the group. If you join the Enigma group, once you buy the app, we'll talk about that in a moment. There's people that have performed this on Stage Parlor already in their paid shows, and it worked flawlessly. And they haven't even used something like this. So you can make it work however, okay? But that's the way that I would perform it. So now that you know that, let's talk about where you buy this, how much does it cost, and what do you get. So Enigma can be bought directly from Christian itself. I don't think this is going to be put out in market. I think this has to be bought directly from him and will only be available like that through his website, Enigma of the Mind. So you go enigmaofthemind.com and you'll find the website. The app itself and the project will cost you £150, 199, I believe, US, and around what I paid, 250, 270, depending on the exchange rate, Canadian dollars. So this is not a cheap thing that you're buying here. This is quite a bit of money, but I do think that it is worth every penny if you know how to use it correctly, okay? So what do you get when you place your purchase? You get a few things. One, you get a special code designed for either Android or iPhone. This works on both. That will let you activate your app on one system only. And by system, I mean iOS or Android. So this means that you can't activate on iOS, and then in 1 year, if you switch to Android, you can shift your code. That won't work. But if you activate on iOS, you'll have it on iOS forever. So even if you change your phone, you'll be able to constantly just use the same key as long as it's on the same software, right? And you don't switch between software. So you get that code. You also get a link to install the app. So for you to install the app, then you also get access to the Facebook group, which you can join, has plenty of ideas from a lot of magicians, like Alan Rorson, and a lot of people that even have put live performances of this on stage and on the street, etc. So you can see how this plays out in the real world, and it's a very welcoming group. And then the last thing that you get are your instructions. So there's two sets of instructions. There's one set of written instructions that come in form of PDFs. One PDF will talk to you about how to set up the app, how to get everything going, which is around 12 pages long. Then you get another PDF, which is around 30 pages long, which goes over different ideas, routines, and the way that the app works. That PDF is more kind of like a cheat sheet if ever you forget about how to use the app before a performance, or you get stressed and you want a reminder and you have the PDF on your phone. You can just quickly go through the PDF and find the information that you need. So that's the first type of instructions that you get. Then you also get 4 videos. You get 4 videos, which are different lengths. One is 1 hour, 2 are 40-ish minutes, 40, 45 minutes, and one is 25 minutes long, so close to 3 hours of video. The first video explains to you the app, the idea behind it, its functioning, as well as offers you some live performances and some explanations of some of the input methods for the app. The second and third video follow suit. They explain to you other input methods through performances and commentary on performances. It is very well explained, so you get everything that you need to know in those videos. And then the last video provided to you is the shortest one, around 25 minutes, which goes over some miscellaneous things. So how to make sure that the spectre goes for a word within the scope, how to make sure that everything works perfectly, how to make sure that you're getting the information that you need, how to customize it, and how to play around with it in certain scenarios, which spectator to select, etc. He goes over that in the last video. So the instructions are very good. And that is everything that you get with your purchase. So before moving on to my usual categories, I do want to talk about the app itself and what it achieves, as well as maybe answer some lingering questions that I've seen online. So what the app offers is different methods of achieving it. Some of them where the phone comes into play for a brief second, some of them where the phone is used to reveal the thought of item, and some where the phone is covert. So where the phone is never seen. For example, the two performances I do with the pad, the phone is never seen or never in play at all by the spectator. They don't even know a phone is in use, and it doesn't even seem like a phone is in use at all. So, you get different methods, and I'll go through over these methods. So one of the methods that you get is a method where you essentially reveal the object on your phone. So you remove your phone, you open your passcode, which helps you for the trick. Afterwards, you then proceed to tell the spectator that you're going to open Google. You can show them Google. You can show that you're going on Google Images, and you're going to type something. So you type something and you tell them, perfect, look, I'm going to hold the phone like this so I can't change anything. But you're thinking of et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Is that correct? I think I got it. Don't say your word out loud, but is the word that you're thinking of this? And you show the Google image revealing the word. That is one of the methods that you get. A second one of the methods that you get follows kind of the way of thinking of this first passcode kind of method, but it offers you 2 hits and reveals instead of 1. And it downplays the impact of the phone in the last reveal. So what I mean by this, it's a really cool method where you have your spectator, you tell them you're going to go on Google Images, but you're going to try and influence them in a moment to think of a specific object. Then you're going to ask them, can you think of, let's say, the second letter in your word and think of the first object that comes to mind, okay? And then before they do that, you already chose the image that you want and whatever, you typed it, and then you're holding your phone literally by the fingertips and you tell them, perfect, what was it that you were thinking of? Iceberg? That's interesting because look, what I had searched is iceberg. So I was able to influence you directly to iceberg, which means then you close your phone, you place it in your pocket, and while doing that, you get the word that they're just thinking of that they've never said out loud. Say iceberg, and I knew I could influence you, and that's the last straw that I needed to get the word that you're just thinking of. You're thinking of a kite, is that right? And they're gonna be like, yes. So that way, your phone kind of plays the role for part of the routine, but then it kind of disappears when you reveal the big picture of the routine. So that's another mode that you get. Then you get my favorite mode, which I think is the best one and is the one that is the most covert. And I think it's the easiest one to use, the most safe option, and the one that offers you the biggest extent of opportunities. And that is what he calls the binary method. I won't go over exactly what it is, but that allows you to not have the spectator tell you the position of certain letters or certain things in the word at all. And essentially you're just able, with different pattern and different ploys at play here, get to their word pretty quickly. And when I mean quickly, I've performed this and I got to the word in literally 30 seconds. And I'm not kidding. I literally told them, can you just imagine this? Perfect. Can you imagine that? Okay. Now, your word isn't something man-made. It's something that it is man-made, but in an interesting way. It's food, right? And just with that question, I was able to write it down. It literally took like 30 seconds, and the person that I performed it to literally like lost their mind because it was so quick. So this method is really quick in terms of using different ploys and techniques into getting to what you need to really fast. Then you have another method which can both be used covert and uncovert, however you want, that uses speech, so voice, so you have that as well. And then the last kind of method that you get is a method if something goes wrong or something fails or you haven't given proper instructions or someone tried to be like a smartass, you have a method as a fail-safe. He calls it the fallback method, where you can literally say, okay, I think I got it. Let me go on Google Images, type in the image. Look, can you hold out your hand? I'm going to place the phone in your hand. What is it that you're thinking of? Then they're going to say, let's say, a Zamboni. And they say, a Zamboni, interesting. You could have thought of any word in the English language and you thought of Zamboni. The phone was in your hand, so I couldn't change what I put. Can you take a look and see? And it's going to be Zamboni. Still a super strong effect, but one that you only use if something fails, which is what I mentioned with the 99% of the time, they won't ever have to say it out loud. They only have to say it out loud if ever you feel it's not going correctly and you may need extra help to make sure it hits. So those are kind of the main methods at play, but there's a lot of utilities as well. And I won't go into all of the utilities because there's a lot of them, but there's different ways through the actual methods as well. So this is really layered, okay? It's really layered and so well designed so that you can go even deeper through the words that the app throws out at you to get to their specific word in various ways. Okay, it gets complicated, so I won't go through all the technicalities of it, but there's different ways to get to their word even faster with barely any misses or fishing. It's great. So that is all in the app as well. And yeah, so having said that, a lot of people that have not yet got the app have had a question. Is this hard to learn? Is this hard to perform? Is this complicated in the app itself? And the question is no, the app is not as complex as you believe it may be. I think a lot of people have ideas of how some of the things work, and they may be right. I was right as to some of the method at play here, and I was completely right. But it is made even easier than I thought it to believe. I think the only thing that you're gonna have to place into this really is just practice it a few times and you'll get the hang of it. You don't necessarily, especially for the second method, the third method that I mentioned technically, the binary method, you don't have to remember anything. There's a method that has something where you have to remember a few things, a bit of memory work. It's relatively simple, but the other method that I told you about has zero of that. Zero. It literally just, it's almost magical the way it works because you get to their word with basically no information given to you and you can get to it like this. So I think that don't be scared that this is super hard to perform or complex and you need to be a tech savvy person to do this. You don't, okay? It's pretty intuitive and you get the hang of it quickly. Another question that I saw is, it's an app, will this be supported? And now I can't really tell you that, but Christian did go on a live in a Facebook group and he did say that he's planning to support this for a very long time because this is something that he uses all the time. So much so that Christian basically now knows what the word the Spectre is thinking of most of the time without even using the phone. That's how much he's using this and how much he enjoys using this. So this should be here for a long time. A second thing that I've seen is people saying that does this take really that long to perform? Because a lot of the performance videos are 4 or 5 minutes long, and the way that people have been talking about it make it seem like it's 4 or 5 minutes long. Now, that's the way that I like to perform it as well, because I feel it adds drama and it adds context and it makes it more impossible and you build a connection with the spectator. But if you don't want that, if you really want to just go to a spectator, you can literally ask them, can you think of a noun? Make it a longer noun, more than 2-3 letters. One that you can spell and one that you know. Do you have one? Yes. Perfect. Now I just want you to imagine spelling the word out. Can you just imagine that? Perfect. The second letter is a vowel, correct? Yes. The next, can you go to the next vowel? Perfect. Okay. Can you think of the first letter? I see lines, but curves? No curves, right? No curves, right? That's what I thought. Now, can you think of the second letter of this word? What's the first thing that pops in your head? Let's say artichoke. Artichoke. Interesting. The word that you're thinking of is parachute, correct? And that's it. You can literally do it as fast and boring as that if you want. Not that it is boring if you like to do it like that, that's up to you. But you can literally do that as fast. So if you don't care about building a presentation, going really deep into it, making it seem like you're going back and forth, that you're tapping into their mind, you can do this in under 2 minutes. You can do this, I would say, in maybe 1 minute, 30 seconds, you can get this effect achieved, okay? And if you want to do it in 1 second, just use the fallback method. Tell them, think of any word that you want. Can be any word in the world. Think of it. You got it? Let me search up on Google Images. I place it on your hand. What is the word? Mozambique. Mozambique was the word you thought of from everything that you could have thought of in the world. You could have thought of food, objects, etc. You thought of Mozambique? Can you check out what I placed on Google Images? And it's Mozambique. So if you want, you can literally just use that fallback method as the effect if you want to do something in like less than a minute. So I really wanted to make sure that you understand that you can make this go as fast or as slow as you want. I prefer rather slow, but that's up to you, okay? So that's another question that I saw asked around. Another question is the languages. This is achieved in a ton of languages. So at launch, I think it has German, English, French, 3 versions of Spanish, and I believe Portuguese as well. Make sure to double check that. I didn't go through every single language, but I do know it has a bunch of languages. I think Italian too. Don't quote me on that if you buy it and you're not sure, but just double check it. But it has a bunch of languages and it's looking to add more. So if you have a language that you want to, Christian said he's available to send you the PDF with everything that needs to be translated, and you can translate it and make your own list and then share it with the people in the group for specific languages. So there is a ton of languages already available, but if you want some extra ones, you can get it done as well with Christian. He's going to talk you through it. So that is available to you as well regarding languages, okay? So I think I've covered most of the lingering questions of people. So having said that, now let's get into the actual difficulty of this. So is Enigma difficult to perform? I've already hinted that the app does most of the work for you. So what do you have to do? As a performer, you have to put a presentational hook. You have to make it seem believable. You have to make it seem interesting. You have to act a bit. You have to play around a bit. And most importantly, you need to be familiar with some mentalist ploys. Okay, he teaches a few of them in the tutorial. But if you buy this and you spend this much money, I think that you already have some ploys and ideas of how to dwindle down different options to spectators. So if you don't know anything about mentalism, then yes, this will require quite a bit of work. If you're familiar with Michael Murray's work, Peter Turner's work, and other great mentalists' work out there, and how they're able to go from a large pool of things to a smaller one through really clever ploys, then this is going to be second nature to you, and you're going to be able to integrate it in your performance rather quickly. Because sometimes a spectator may think of a word that the app throws out a lot of, and even through the filtering methods, is going to end with like 5 or 6 possibilities. So then you have to think on your feet of ways in order, without being clear that you're fishing and asking, is this your object? And then keep saying no, 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 no until you get it. You have to use some of these ploys in certain cases to dwindle down. Not all the time. Sometimes the app throws out to you literally 2 words. So you don't even have to think about it. You just ask, this is not something like this. Oh, it is, or it is not. And then you have the word. But sometimes you'll have to use some clever techniques. So I do think that you have to be a bit more experienced mentalism-wise to achieve that. But if not, I think the app itself is relatively easy to use. I'd say not beginner. I'd say someone familiar with magic apps, familiar with mentalism, and performance-wise, I'd say maybe intermediate, because I don't think a beginner mentalist will be able to pull this off as great as Christian does, or as great as some other people will pull this. Even myself, I'm still working on my presentation. I'm refining it every single time, and people are throwing into groups some great ways in order to shuffle through different things and make it seem even more direct. So regarding difficulty, it's not that difficult to perform. If you're a mentalist and you've been doing mentalism, I'd say for over maybe a year, you'll find the second nature and you'll get through it pretty quickly. Now let's talk about practicality. So is this practical to perform? So what do you have to carry around with you? Technically, you just have to have your phone. So technically you have to carry nothing because you have your phone with you almost all the time. If, however, you're like me and you like to perform this with a pad or with some extra things, you're going to have to bring those extra things with you. That is quite logical. But in essence, you don't really need to, right? You don't really need the pads, you don't need the billets or anything else to write on. If you don't want, you can just use the app and do it directly with them through the various methods that we've talked about already. So practicality-wise, it is very, very good. Now let's talk about angles. So what are the angles? The angles are, I would say, 180. So no matter the presentation that you do, 180. If you do it at Zoom, maybe 360. And in some cases, even with some of the methods that he gives you, you can maybe do it 270, maybe 360, but that depends. I haven't tested it out, but he does tell you ways in which you can use this and kind of make it play for a group and without having to worry about angles. But for me, for the way that I like to perform it and the way that I explained it to you guys and everyone watching, for me, it's more of a 180. So they're in front of me and etc. But I see ways that you can do it maybe surrounded and with more people around you. I do think there's ways to do that and to achieve that if you're careful and interested enough in achieving that. Regarding inspectability, well, there's not really anything to inspect because most of the presentations you don't write, if you don't want to use a pad, you don't have to write anything down. You're just taking the word from their head, and most of them when you perform it, the Google image that opens in your actual browser. So it's not in like a fake screen in the app, it opens in your actual browser. So if someone is to be like, no way, they're in your browser when they pick up the phone. So they're not going to find anything, they're just going to be in the browser. So I think inspectability wise, you're pretty clear here. It's pretty inspectable. I mean, there's not really anything that would highlight something to them that's misconstrued. In terms of resets pretty much instantly. In terms of performing environment, you don't really need a table for this. As I said, you can do it standing up, standing down, without any table or anything like that. You can get through that as well. And yeah, I think if I were to add one more thing regarding practicality is the safeguard measures that are here. The app allows you a lot of measures, as I mentioned with the fallback method, to get a hit no matter what. And there's also some other methods during the performance that if ever you feel like you missed something, you'll be able to essentially revert that mistake quite quickly. So there's some of those methods employed as well. And now that I'm thinking about it, I also want to mention regarding practicality and maybe difficulty as well, is that the spectator cannot think of any word that they want, okay? And that is to say that they can't think of a name of their loved one, for example. You can't go to someone and say, can you think of any name? And then they're going to go for Roberts Mayweather, right? That the app won't throw you that out, right? You won't get that. So there's a bit of, so I think this works in practicality. You will have to dwindle a bit the choices of your specters, not by much, but a bit. My favorite way of performing this is just being blunt about it and so I just want you to think of a noun. Don't make it something easy, like 2-3 words. Think of a longer word, a longer noun. And the reason is because that's something that we're going to be able to all recognize. It gives you a lot of options. And it's also, most of them are easy to spell, which is going to be important in a moment because you have to choose a word that you're comfortable spelling. Is that okay? Perfect. And you're good, right? So there's other ways that Christian teaches you for some other categories and other words that they can think of. But for me, that's the most surefire, the way that I perform it and the way that has hit every single time. That's the way that I do it, okay? So there's that as well to consider, which is why I said at the start that they can seemingly think of any word within limitation. The limitations are not that limiting, but just have to make sure that they don't think of like their cousin, or they think of like something like a number like 22, or they think of certain things like that. There are some ways to circumvent that. They're pretty easy, so it shouldn't be a worry for you. Okay, now let's talk about where to perform. So where do you perform this? I think you can get away with it pretty much anywhere. As I said, I have a way to perform this in parlor stage with a pad. So I can do this effect parlor stage with someone on stage almost 360 degrees without an issue, right? I've found a way to do that, and I achieve it with this. There's people in the group that I've posted pictures of them doing it on stage parlor, so that is 100% a thing. In close-up scenarios where I know I'm going to be seated and I'm going to have a table and I'm going to sit down, I do the thing with the pad and the phone, and it works well in sit-down mingling environments. And then if I want to do something impromptu or table hopping, etc., and I find that there's a good ambiance for it, then I can do it then as well. So you can pretty much achieve this everywhere. Now, of course, it's important to know that this trick is, you're not going to do this at a loud bar to drunk people or at a club where people don't care and don't have time to think. You don't want to do it there, right? But if you're in a scenario, I feel that some people have asked this. Let's say you're at a wedding or table hopping environment. There's always going to be more calm tables. right? I do weddings sometimes, and there's some tables that always dance, right? They're always like active, dancing, talking. And then you clearly see there's some tables of people that are just sitting and just chatting or maybe just eating in their corner. This would work at that table 100%. It gives you a really good moment to go there. Same for restaurants. Restaurants are not places where, even though there's noise, there are ways that you can get this effect to play in those settings. So that really depends on you and finding good people to perform this to, okay? So performing wise, I really feel that in most scenarios, if you can find a scenario that works for you, you'll be able to get this. Now again, about the length of the routine, as I said, if you're really in a rush, just do the other methods that go to the word, and yes, they have to say it out loud, but if that's what you want, just a quick thing, just do that. There's an option for you. It's not the best. I wouldn't do it, but it's still great, okay? So, having said all of this, let's get into the positives and negatives. So what are the negatives of Enigma? Okay, what are the negatives? So these are my negatives for myself. I think the only negative for me is the fact, I don't even know how to put this. I think the only negative for me is the fact that even though I think the fallback method has its praise, I feel that if the effect doesn't work, since I really love revealing it on a pad, I'm a bit screwed. So that's the only thing, right? It's never happened up until now where I got screwed. I've practiced this for over 50 times. I've even had generators throw words at me. I've done this with my close friends and parents. I've practiced this over and over. And I think that it's never really happened that I was a fish out of water. However, if you're someone that doesn't want to have the phone in play at all and you want to do something with a pad, if it fails, then you're a bit of in a scenario. I think the way out would be that you show the word, they say, no, that's not it. And they say, no, I really had a feeling about that. But what was the word that you went for? Let's say they say jet ski. Jet ski was the word that you went for. And I can't believe it. I thought it would be too obvious. And then you would remove your phone from your pocket and you'd say, look, this morning I was looking at something online. I was trying to buy something. And you open up your phone and you show that Google, the last time you left the page is on a jet ski. And I feel that could be a way out, but it wouldn't be my favorite. But even then, you know, I'm trying to fish for some negatives for me. I know for some people, how long it is to perform, the fact that, you can't perform this anywhere, the fact it's not, you can just ask them and reveal it straight away. There's a bunch of negatives that people are going to find with this, but for me, those are not necessarily negatives in the environments and the way that I like to perform, okay? So what are the positives now of this? One, you are getting a ton of languages and you can update the languages. Two, basically, they can think of any word. Your restriction is so small that it makes it seem like any word is possible. There's so many ways of you to perform it. Covert, uncovert, pad, no pad, image, double. There's so many ways of doing this and so many roads of getting to the word that is honestly incredible that this even exists. And I think it is true mind reading at the end of the day. I know some people may disagree, but for me, it truly does feel like that. Second, the instructional videos are great. The performance that you can create with someone here is absolutely great. The intimacy that you can create is great. And I think the effect at the end of the day, no matter what you think of the pattern and the story behind it, I think that what you achieve at the end of the day is mind reading. I know some people have said, oh, I'll just keep using DFB. I mean, that's fine, but you have to use your phone. They name a list of only 100 things. You tell them, look, but don't tell me, and then you reveal it. That's fine if that's okay for you. But I think that this truly opens the gate of a real mind-bending thing. And sometimes you're going to fall, like I was when I told you with that word that I had with the spectator. Literally, it got me between two words without me ever saying anything. Literally at the end, I was like, so what's the first? Oh, I see lines, curves also, no? Yeah, curves too. So there's a mix of, that's exactly what I thought. And then when I went down to pick up my pad, I just had two options of what I could have said to them. And I don't think there's any other system or effect that can get to you at that stage. I don't think there is, and I think that is the purest form. Sometimes you'll have to fish a bit more and have to play around a bit more with them, but when you get those hits, even those that you fish more, it just makes it seem more impossible. I think that the experience at the end of the day is that of true mind reading, because they never say it, write it, type it, whisper it, mime it, charade it, nothing. It truly feels like it is mind reading to me. I know people may disagree. If you disagree, leave a comment. We'll talk about it in a polite fashion. I'm not here to throw shade at anyone or critique your opinion or anything like that. I'm just here to give you my thoughts on this. So having said all of this, would I recommend Enigma, and what do I give it out of 10? Would I recommend Enigma? I think that if you're a mentalist and you're looking to achieve a thought of word in a super clean manner, I think Enigma is for you. I really think it. I think that if you're a magician and you work in packed environments and you're always you don't have much time to go from table to table and you're looking for something quick, easy, direct, this is not for you. But if you're looking to maybe take a few minutes, settle down and perform something really that's going to connect you with the specter, I think Enigma is for you. So what would I rate Enigma out of 10? Enigma is truly something that I feel pushes the boundaries of mentalism forward. I honestly feel that. Again, if you disagree, that's completely fine. You can tell me why. We can have a discussion about it. But I really think that it's something that pushes the boundary forwards. I really think that it's something that is great. It is something that I will be using. Since I got this, which is like 5 or 6 days from the moment this video goes live, I perform this every day. Literally, even sometimes to myself. I just enjoy performing this so much. I perform it to myself just to keep getting better and better and better and better with the app. And yeah, I really think this is something that I'm going to be performing for as long as I can, and as long as the app stays alive. So if the app stays alive 50 years, then I'm going to be performing this for a long time. I really, really like it. I will be performing it. I've already performed it at an event yesterday, so I really think this is good, great. I love it. It's not getting a 10, but it's getting the closest thing you get to a 10, and it's a 9.75. I really think it's great, but yeah, it's a 9.75 on 10. It is great. I love it. I will be using it. It's a fooler. It's incredible. And I think that if you enjoyed anything that I said in this review, and now that you know more about it, you can make a sound decision of whether or not this is for you. If you've made it to this point, thank you for sticking around. I know this is a long video, but I think it deserves to be this long to give you all the information that you need. So having said that, thank you so much for watching. Leave a comment down below. Any questions, like and subscribe, and I'll see you all in my next review. Bye.